Hello everyone, Armando here with DLC Model Builders, and this is the first segment in my build series for one of the two builds I will be doing for the 60th anniversary Star Trek group build being hosted by Hobby Link International and Kenny Conklin. This is the AMT Romulan Warbird, which I had specified would be one of my two builds, and over the past couple of weeks I've been batting around and experimenting with a few things, because one of the surprises I wanted to have for the build was something that I've always wanted to do with models, and that is to levitate them with magnets. Yes, I know it's very ambitious, but I supplied myself with a bunch of different size magnets with varying potencies, and I experimented. This is one of the most powerful ones I've gotten so far, and I thought I could do it. In fact, I mocked up the model and glued 2 disc magnets inside and attempted to levitated, arranging the magnets in different ways, but I have come to the conclusion that it's just not going to be possible. Even though I think this model has a shape that would work, it just cannot be done. I also toyed with the idea of suspending the big magnet at the top in a build and then putting a nylon string on the bottom and holding it up so it would suspend. And although that might be more feasible, then I would have something over the model that would cover it and would cover the design and the lighting and the painting. So ultimately I decided to just go with a more traditional approach. As I stated in my original post, I have the motion picture miniatures accurazing set, which includes the tail and the head, as well as a couple of greeblies that go on the surface. So I'll be doing those. So over the course of the next couple of weeks I'll take this apart and remove the discs, and then begin a more traditional build. Anyway, thought I'd give you guys a preview. Talk to you soon. Hey guys, okay, I'm back, and I went ahead and took everything apart, well, except that half, but yeah, I took the mock-up apart and started working on the accurized head. And the first thing I needed to do, which is what they suggested, was to bore out some resin here, because this was a lot smaller, so that it would fit. There were 2 ways of doing it: either cut off this part and glue it, or bore out the inside. I chose to bore out the inside with my Dremel, and it worked out pretty well. Let me show you guys how it fits. Let's see if I can get the thing out of the shade. There we go. So it fits pretty well now. It'll go all the way in. I'll glue it. I will fill the seams and even the whole thing out. So that's the first part. Now, the next step is to align these 2 halves, and for that I'm going to make some small pins. I'm going to drill strategic holes that are symmetrical in both halves, so that it joins itself without having to hold it like this, and it'll keep it even. After I do that, I will proceed with the lighting. Now I thought that I would put some LEDs in here, and since the good thing about this translucent resin is it diffuses the light all over the place, and since there's supposed to be light in this bar as well as up here, hopefully putting some strong LEDs here should illuminate the whole head. That's my hope anyway. So making some progress. Okay, see you in the next one. Alright, so I washed the part, which I'd forgotten to do, and I went ahead and chopped off a couple of pieces from a paper clip. Those will be my pins, and I figure that I will drill holes in 3 strategic locations, probably somewhere around here, somewhere around here, and somewhere around here, so it'll line up nicely. They've got to be just right so that everything lines up. The part for the most part lines up pretty well when I press it together with my hands, but I want to make sure that it doesn't move. Once I have completed that, then I'll go ahead and start wiring up the LEDs. Talk to you soon. Alright, all 3 pins are inserted now. Hope you can see it. There's one on the tip there. And then I inserted another one here. And finally one here. Lined up the head pretty nicely, as you can see. So I should be able to, once I get all the lighting in, I should be able to glue it together, take care of the seams, and the next step will be to primer the whole thing enough so that it light blocks the LED, and then I'll be able to simply, and paint it of course, and then I'll be able to simply just etch out the windows. Or, well, simply, we'll see. I'm sure it's not going to be simple. Anyway, talk to you soon. Okay, so we've done multiple applications of the black primer, and we're almost there. Still some leakage along the creases, and I can show you with the 3mm test LED that I have, and you can see that some of it does leak through. Let me see if I can do this by holding the camera. It's a little tricky. Okay, there we go. See, you can see some leakage along the creases there still, but that's fine. At least I know the concept works. Now, if I can somehow figure out a way of using the stickers, the little decals that come with this, to guide my making of the windows, I'll be able to just, with pinpoint scratching, get all those windows scratched out. Of course, I'm going to have to wire the LEDs in, and I'm going to have to commit to the size and what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do the wiring, and then close the whole thing off. Once I close it off, I'll have to work on the seams after gluing and eliminate those seams with sanding and puttying, and then the final touch will be to actually paint with the color that I'm going to choose for the Warbird, and that's when I'll do the windows definitively. You can't do them any other way. If you scratch them out with a primer, then you're going to have to paint over them again with the paint. So that's just the way it has to be done. But as you can see, the primer has very nicely applied and very smooth. The other half is in my painting booth over there. I also have the ship's parts drying after applying adhesion promoter. So it's coming along. Gotten a lot of work done today. I'm happy. More than I've done in a long time, actually. I'm finally getting back into this. Anyway, talk to you soon. Okay, applying black primer to the body of the Model 2 so that everything matches. And then I'll primer the nacelles. Alright, so here's what I come up with. This here is simply a landscape LED tower. It's got its own built-in resistors. Let me turn off the power supply so you can see it. Okay. I just got this online through Amazon. It's a landscape tower. It's got multiple SMDs within it, and it's got a built-in resistor, so I can hook this up directly to 9 to 12 volt power sources without any issue. It goes into landscape lighting, so it could take the voltage from the converter. This is a 3mm LED because this thing radiates light towards the sides very nicely, but out here not so much. And this thing does have areas that will require lighting along this location, like the let me see if I can find this. Like the box art says. See? There's supposed to be lighting down there, so I want to make sure that there's enough light getting down there. Hopefully it'll work, but I have no way of testing it until I close up the whole thing and scratch out the windows on the primer. So I guess we'll find out. The LED does require a resistor because it wouldn't have taken 9 volts. So I wired in a 470 ohm resistor, and then I just threaded everything out through the neck. This will require some creative wiring to get it down to the base. Some creative routing of the wire is what I mean, because this goes into the top clamshell. So that should be interesting. As for the neck here and the neck here, which will also require illumination, I think I'm probably going to use a 5mm LED, which I'll just put here on the inside so it illuminates all of this. And down here I'll probably use another 3mm. I'll core out some of this so I can insert it there, and it should give me illumination of the whole stem. Anyway, pretty pleased. I've gotten a lot of work done today, so onward and upward. Alright, talk to you soon. Alright, so I've sealed it up and clamped it, and now we wait. This will need definitely touch-up work and sanding and reprimering, and I might even have to use some tulip paint for those creases that refuse to be completely light blocked. But once all that is done, I will do a test scraping to see if the light comes through the way it's supposed to, and if it does, the head will basically be ready to be incorporated into the rest of the body. I've already primered the rest of the body. Turn on the lights here. It's been drying overnight. I'm going to start the wiring process for the nacelles tonight, and we'll go from there. Okay. Alright, so I have applied black primer on the outside and white primer on the inside, and this is the set of clear parts that go on the nacelle. This one goes on the outside like that. Now I'm going to have to cut some of this open so that light leaks through it and illuminates this thing as well. I'm also going to have to frost the inside either with sanding or paint, and I'm probably going to end up painting the inside somewhat green too, because most of the representations that I see online of the Warbird show a diffuse greenish tinge, as you can see there, which is what I want to try and achieve. And as you can see, the tip of the nacelle also is illuminated, which is not something that's done natively with these things. When you put these together, you can see that the tip is covered, so I'm going to have to make a little cutout there so light leaks out. Anyway, I'm going to use the 805 SMD strip, which is very, very thin. And hopefully this is all I need to illuminate all of the nacelle. But I'm going to do some testing first to make sure that I don't get any light leakage, because I've only primered once, and this primer may need a couple of coatings. Anyway, see you in a bit. Alright, I'm back working on one of the nacelles, and I've been at this for a couple hours trying to figure out the best arrangement to avoid the old bugaboo of the hotspots, because the LED strips are just not going to cut it. I hazed the clear chiller grill by sanding with 600 grit on the inside, and that toned it down a good deal, but there's still hot spots, so I'm going to have to do something else now. I tried painting with the Tamiya clear green. I applied a thick coat on the inside, but that killed the light too much, so I stripped it all down, which means I'm probably going to have to do some reprimering of this half, but that's okay. I found that the best arrangement is with these 3mm flat top hazed green LEDs. This one especially gives a beautiful effect all the way through here, which is very nice. This one on this side, if I aim it towards the front, the problem I'm going to have is you're going to see a hot spot. So if I aim it backwards, it'll tone down the hot spot to a good degree. And then finally, these will illuminate the these little things will illuminate very nicely with just ambient light. See, there's one here, and there's one here. Now the front, I'm assuming it's a Bussard collector also. I don't know what the technology for the Romulans is, but this thing goes like that, and as you can see, this has a, let's see if I can put on the light, it has a ridge along the center which was solid, so I had to sand out a little piece there and on the other half so that the light from the 603 SMD, which I'm going to be using, would go through and illuminate that. Hopefully the effect will be that I'll get a nice uniform chiller grill with lighting on the two side vents and then lighting on the front. So now comes the soldering and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, the head of the ship is all solid now, and the wiring is all done. So that'll have to be sanded and reprimered, and light leaks will be taken care of. Okay. See you in a bit.